morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to First Parish Church of Groton. My name is Emma Morella, and my pronouns are she, her. We are a community seeking to deepen spiritually, to take care of one another, and to be a blessing to the world. Unitarian Universalism is a faith for all. So bring all of who you are. All of your beliefs, identities, abilities, challenges, gifts, and dreams. Bring all of what you've been and all of what you've done. There is room here for all of it. Our congregation includes a wide diversity of beliefs, and we know we don't need to think alike to love alike. We invite you to freely translate the language you hear today. We are not concerned about sounds that children or Lars or anyone else might make during the service, and hope you won't be either. The flowers this morning are a gift from Lisa at Lavender Florist just across the street. And special thanks this morning to Lisa Martino, who is gifting us with music. Our sanctuary is not this room or any place at all. Sanctuary is what we create together. Please come in and rest for a while. You are so welcome here.
If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you.
Start with the thirst, the deep well you have been forgetting, ancient and ready to be soaked without shame. The well your ancestors dug for you. Your thirst is their faithfulness, undeterred from believing there are no strangers here. In the same thirst, we are made and unmade, born and born again. Thirst is the thing that remembers who you are.
The three bells at the start of worship invite us to settle into our bodies more fully, remind us that we are whole. We belong wholly upon this earth, and we are held in the love that holds all in tenderness. With each bell, I invite you to breathe in and release, or close your eyes and then open them. The first bell is for you. The second is for your loved ones. And the third is for the work. Our opening hymn is Down in the River to Pray. The words are on the insert in your order of service. Please rise as able.
As I went down in the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown? Good Lord, show me the way. Oh, sisters, let's go down, come on down. Come on, brothers, let's go down in the river to pray. As I went down in the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown? Good Lord, show me the way. Oh, mothers, let's go down, come on down. Come on, fathers, let's go down in the river to pray. As I went down in the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown? Good Lord, show me the way. Oh, sisters, let's go down, come on down. Parents. Oh, parents, let's go down in the river to pray.
I've been told to invite you to sit. Well done. The flaming chalice is the symbol of our faith. If you are with us remotely, I invite you to get a candle and light it as we light our common chalice here in the meeting house. Sarah Yakabuchi, our congregational chemist, will light the chalice this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Sarah Yakabuchi, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. It was about 3 a.m. one hot summer night when I was awakened by a rather loud bang out in my kitchen. I cautiously went out to investigate, and initially I didn't see anything. And then I saw the freezer door a bit ajar. I opened it to find an exploded plastic bottle of root beer. I then saw another bottle that had not yet detonated, and I carefully placed it into the sink. These were bottles that had been forgotten about and left behind by the kids at the weekend barbecue. At 3 a.m., I wasn't really appreciating the remarkable property of water, that it is one of a few substances whose crystal structure expands at cold temperatures. Water is an amazing molecule, and yet it is so simple, so small. Just two elements, hydrogen and oxygen. A hydrogen, an oxygen, and another hydrogen connected together to make the molecule we know as H2O. In Mark Neumeyer's book, Water, The Essence of Life, he says, water is the most extraordinary, life-sustaining molecule we know to humankind. It determined our beginnings, sustains our future, and sustains our present and holds the key to our future. This miraculous substance covers more than 70% of our planet and makes up about 70% of our bodies. And all known living organisms depend on it for survival. Here we are on Memorial Day weekend, the unofficial beginning of summer, and with water being such an important part of summer. It's the weekend when people start opening up their pools, or maybe getting out their wading pools for their kids, or maybe their dogs. We start getting out our sprinklers and our hoses. As my older relatives always told me in New England, never plant your garden before Memorial Weekend because we could have a frost, which we did experience amazingly last week here in Massachusetts. We start getting out our fans, we start installing our air conditioners to help us get through those weeks ahead, which might have high humidity, the vapor form of water. We start planning our adventures in, on, or by the ocean. We are fortunate to live in a place where we have so many wonderful lakes and rivers, and we can start planning our canoeing, kayaking, and boating adventures. I'd like to chalice today an appreciation for water, H2O. I will end with the words by the children's book author Amy Ludwig Van Water. Water. Water is clearly a mystery to me. A liquid, a solid, a gas, it's all three. Freeze it, warm it, boil it, you'll see. Water is clearly a mystery to me. Thank you.
I'll invite Michael Preston to come up to light the peace candle today. On this Memorial Day weekend, we light a peace candle in memory of all whose lives were lost to war. May we honor them by creating as much peace as possible within ourselves, our families, and our communities. Please remain seated and join in singing Spirit of Life. The words are in your order of service.
Yes.
to invite all of the children to come up here for a story. The story has very beautiful pictures that you will want to see. For the last 2 weeks, we forgot to do our hand motions. I know. So let's say them together, and we'll do our hand motions. We are Unitarian, Universalist, with minds that think, hearts that love, and hands ready to help. And hugs.
Big hugs.
We didn't forget hugs. So today we're talking about water. Tell me about your favorite water. Does anybody have a favorite kind of water? Yes, Michael. Tap water for drinking. Coraline, how about you? Cold water. Zoe? Ocean water. Does anybody else? Rebecca, what's your favorite water?
Ocean water at Nauset Beach in Cape Cod.
Oh, that is very specific. Ocean water at Nauset Beach in Cape Cod. Does anybody else have favorite water? Does anybody like pools? Bath water. Yes, Melissa likes pool water very much. Oh, and looking at the Merrimack River, yes. Finn, Amelia, come on up here. We're talking about water. No, you don't want to talk about water? Amelia will.
They're busy.
Okay, they're busy. Okay, so our story is called The Rhythm of the Rain, and it is all about water with words and pictures by Graham Baker Smith. Here we go. Isaac was playing in his favorite pool of water on the side of the mountain. He felt spots of rain on his cheek and looked up. The clouds above him were turning dark. He emptied the little jar of water he had collected for catching minnows. Have any of you ever done that? You have? Have you ever actually caught?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
I grew up by a little creek that I played in all the time. There was a ton of minnows. I couldn't help but catch them.
So he emptied the little jar of water he had collected for catching minnows back into the pool as the rain made little streams that ran out of the pool. And Isaac raced the streams down the mountainside, following his water. He followed them to the river that ran right past his house and to where the water plunged down a waterfall.
Somewhere in all of that tumbling, racing water is the water from my little jar, Isaac thought. As the river went on, it got deeper and wider. Shy animals came out of the woods to drink and wash. And fish swam in the swelling water. On and on the river flowed, winding through the country.
And winding through the city. And everywhere the river went, animals drank from it. And people did too. And people used that water to take baths and wash their clothes and to power their mills. And eventually, the river joined the great ocean. Where's the water from my little jar? Isaac wondered. Just then, a great whale opened its huge mouth to feed and swallowed some of the water from Isaac's pool. Later, by the light of the moon, that same whale rises and blows a great fountain of water through its spout hole into the starry night, and the water falls like rain back into the sea and flows with the currents that run deep, deep down at the bottom of the ocean where the sun's light never reaches. And then the water rises to ride a storm all night long.
In the calm, bright morning, the sun turns the waves golden. The ocean steams in the heat, and some of its water climbs as mist into the sky. That mist cools, and it gathers into a cloud that floats over a mountain in a country far, far away from Isaac's pool. The clouds release their gift of water and fill the pool where another little child is playing. How do clouds release their gift of water? What is that?
What is that, Amelia?
Is that it? I think it is rain. Yeah, they don't say exactly, but I think you're right. Yeah. Down the mountain, the river runs. Elephants and giraffes and flamingos and zebras celebrate the return of the rain.
And on the water runs. The end. Yeah.
There's still more pictures. We'll just
Okay.
pictures.
Yeah. Thank you, Emma.
Here we go. Like a ship in the harbor, like a mother and child, like a light in the darkness, will hold you a while, will rock on the water, will cradle you deep, and hold you while angels sing you to sleep. Like a ship in the harbor, like a mother and child, like a light in the darkness, will hold you a while, will rock on the water, will cradle you deep, and hold you while angels sing you to sleep. May your eyes be open to learning. May your lips be open to this world. May your heart know love and your heart to the worth of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
That's the one. So, my name is Lee Kinvey. I am the, I don't know, am I still the sabbatical ministers? I don't know, I'm just here. I'm the post-sabbatical minister in a post-modern congregation. I use they, them pronouns. And I am, I guess, still finishing seminary. But the first class I took in seminary was called Multi-Religious Intensive Amidst the Blessing of the Ancestors. And one of the main threads of the course was about something called ancestral engagement, which is about trying to make some sort of connection or contact with our ancestors in imaginal or spiritual realms. The idea was to see if we could find ancestors who would be guides for us, sources of blessing and support as we started seminary. So I confess that I had some inner hurdles to leap over before I embraced that particular idea. But I had a trusting relationship with the professor, and that makes all the difference. And she had a lot of experience with this kind of thing. So I decided, what the heck, I'm going to suspend my disbelief and just see whatever experience comes to me. We had read a whole book about this before class had started, so we had a lot of background information. And our professor took great care to set up a context within a class that was many hours of emotional support. She answered all our questions. She had witnesses in the room who were there to respond if anybody was having upset in any way or having a hard time or needed to leave. So we're all lying down, and the professor walks us through relaxation, connecting with our bodies, and then guides us into bringing to mind, to heart, different ancestral lines, like father, etc. And just opening to the idea of inviting connection with those who are bright and benevolent, loving and wise. So those were the souls we were seeking, bright and benevolent, loving and wise. And if we did have an experience like that, then our instruction was, ask the question, do you have anything for me? So it's a pretty gentle experience, as I guess things like this go. And much to my surprise, it really worked for me. I had 4 what seemed like women on my mother's line kind of show up in this way that things show up in imagery experiences. They seemed energetic and joyful and funny, actually. And what I got from them was an earful of Danish. I have 4 Danish grandparents. I mean, I'm kind of go way back there. And I spoke household Danish until I was about 6. So I understood most of what they were saying, but definitely not all of it. There were like at least 2 words that I had no clue about. So I quick turned on my phone voice memo app, and I recorded myself saying what was coming through so that I could get it later, because I knew I wasn't going to remember words I didn't understand. And basically what I got was, you ready for an earful of Danish? Du ligesom os. Vi går sammen hver dag og bringer fiskene. Fra Skovshoved til Gamle Strand. Vi er Skovsokone, fiskerkone, også dig. Bringer fiskene, skat. Bringer fiskene. Which translates as, you are just like us. We carry the fish every day from Skovshoved to Gamle Strand, and we are the Skovsokone, and you are too. So bring the fish, sweetheart. Bring the fish. Bring the fish. Okay. My first instinct is usually toward the concrete. So I was like, whoa, I'm supposed to learn how to cook fish? I mean, I really don't cook. And I pictured myself like feeling compelled to bring a fish dinner to every potluck. And worse yet, like, would this involve a boat? Because on a scale of 0 to gets green at the thought of a boat in the ocean, I am 250% prone to motion sickness. And I thought, well, okay, maybe my ancestors are pranksters, I don't know. But after class, I started trying to figure out those 2 key words that I really didn't understand. And of course, we have now the miracle of internet searching and the miracle of calling family in Denmark without having to calculate every 5 seconds how much it costs. So it didn't take me long to figure out what they were saying. The one word was Skovshoved, which turned out to be this tiny fishing village. It's not even an official town anymore, north of Groton of Copenhagen, that I had never heard of before. And the other word, Skovsokone, refers specifically to the women who, for generations, carried whatever the fishers had caught up in their village, 8.5 miles by foot, down to this famous waterfront Copenhagen fish market that happened every day, and then walked back home together. And they wore this traditional clothing that always included a signature white scarf. There are tons of Danish paintings of exactly this. So I had memories of being at that fish market with my mama, with my grandmother, when I was probably 4 and then again 6 years old. Mama and I were the early morning risers of the bunch. And so we'd take the bus a few stops and then we'd walk first to the bakery, because coffee and, Danish pastry, which is not what you call a Danish here, and then to the fish market. But I had no idea what that meant for me. Bring the fish. I'm supposed to bring the fish. What fish? So I just let the story sort of resonate in me. And I thought about fish in the Bible, and I became really intrigued with this story of the loaves and fishes. So Jesus had been walking around teaching, and he had a reputation by then, and people were showing up to listen. And in this story, which appears in Matthew and in John, Jesus and 5,000 people end up in kind of a remote location. And I guess the disciples were sort of in charge of logistics, and they get portrayed in art as, grown-up, middle-aged men, but they weren't. Most of them were gangly teenagers between about 13 and 25. And they had sort of forgotten, as teenagers do, to bring food, like maybe 5,000 people would need something to eat. I also assume that food trucks in 30 AD were a little difficult to come by. But by this time, Jesus in the story was sort of used to their ineptitude, and he decides to crowdsource. In the John 6 version of the story, Jesus asks if anyone has any food, and Andrew says, "Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish." I love this, because maybe this is the kid with the type A prepared parents who sent him off with food to the big gathering, or maybe this is the kid who just thinks about things and knows, I am always hungry. In any case, Jesus feeds 5,000 people with this little boy's lunch, and there are 12 baskets of leftovers. So I'm thinking about this little boy, like the one who brought the fish. The wonder that that kid must have felt just being there. So these teenage disciples, forgot to bring food, but this adventurous or lunch-toting little tyke happens to have brought the thing that saved the day. And the gift that Jesus gave that kid is actually kind of stunning. And I wondered, was that a life-altering lesson for him? He never appears again in the Bible. But like to think it was my fish that fed the 5,000 people, right? Him saying, like, what you possess, what you bring, has the potential to be exactly what's needed, has the potential to be the stuff of miracle and transformation. And maybe the whole rest of his life was accompanied by that gift. Whatever you happen to have is enough. It'll be enough. And I still didn't know what my ancestors meant with bring the fish. My response to most deep, lingering questions is to plan a trip. So I decided that my next visit to Denmark, I would build a little bring the fish pilgrimage into it. So I planned this great trip for summer of 2020. Wah, wah. I finally made that trip this past August. And I got myself a white scarf, and I put it on my backpack, and I walked from the fishing village of Skolsovik to the fish market in Gammelstrand in Copenhagen and back. And with the ocean by my side, I just invited my ancestors to travel with me. And I came back to the question, what is bring the fish? And what came to me was that in contemplating that question over several years, I had been concentrating on the fish. What were the fish? What are my gifts that I just arrived with? The second part that came on the walk was that the fish are just what's handed to me. There's no effort on my part. I wasn't the one doing the fishing. I had to show up with a big, clean, empty basket. The fish just are what they are, and there's no point worrying about what kind of fish got put in my basket. The effort is in the bringing. So to me, bring the fish at this point anyway, it may keep evolving. It helps me remember that the heart of what I can offer in any particular situation is not this word or that word or the right story, but how I bring it, how I show up. It reminds me of Maya Angelou's quote, I have learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. People will never forget how you made them feel. I thought about the 5 hours a day that those women walked and talked together. How much fun. I imagined them laughing and talking and singing and daydreaming and spilling their guts and receiving everything they needed from each other. And that's a legacy I'm honored to receive. I started inviting them to be with me. Just, can you show up now when I'm struggling, when I'm trying to arrive with my scrawny and unruly fish? The ancestors provide kind of a support that doesn't really question or doubt what we have to offer. And they remind me that whoever needs my fish that day will come get the fish, and others will happily walk by. I don't have to take it all so seriously. It's just fish. Some days people need to eat something else. And I learned that bright and benevolent and loving and wise ancestors can help us root in love. And this seems like a critical time for as many of us as possible to feel rooted in love, to recognize that whatever we have to offer is enough. And then to commit to the journey, to the bringing, to keep clearing out our basket, cleaning it out, clearing out whatever gets in our way, to be as well as we can, to find our companions for the journey. Because everybody's got fish to bring. Larsie has fish to bring. And each of our power rests within the fish we already have. It rests within our choice to give them away. And it rests within how we show up with our gift. So I'll just invite you to consider if there's a part of this story that resonates with you today. Connecting with bright and benevolent ancestors? Showing up empty and ready to receive whatever's given? Finding your fish and your fish market? Your gifts and how you offer them? Maybe the journey and the companions along the way. Maybe the seasickness and the worry about learning how to cook. Maybe there's something here for you. If so, I'd love to hear about it, if you want to take a walk sometime. All right.
The river is a healer, the river is a sage, the river knows no end, and the river feels no age. The river is a leader, every single day, is living in the moment, and it always finds a way. Water heal my body, water heal my soul. When I go down to the water, by the water I feel whole. The river calls me over, it's calling out my name. In the day or in the night I hear the river all the same. It's calling me over, calling out my pain. A river gathers tears just like a river gathers rain. Water heal my body, water heal my soul. When I go down to the water, by the water I feel whole. The river is a traveler, always on the go. A river never worries if it's fast or if it's slow. River, take me to where I need to go. I will just relax and let the river flow. Water heal my body, water heal my soul. When I go down to the water, by the water I feel whole. Water heal my body, water heal my soul. When I go down to the water, by the water I feel whole. When I go down, when I go down to the water, by the water I feel whole.
So I'm going to talk about my kids, and one of them's here. So I didn't know. So Asa may have a grievance after this sermon. One of the ways I know that Lee and I are kindred spirits is because I have never in my entire life met anyone else who gets as seasick as I do. My seasickness was always bad, but it has gotten worse and worse as I've gotten older. And I now get seasick, I am not making this up, if I watch movies that have waves in them. I also get seasick if I stand on a dock. And one of the absolute worst experiences of my entire life was going on a whale watch off the coast of Provincetown, which was doubly sad because the whales were amazing that day, leaping and breaching and spouting. At least that is what I was told. I missed it because I was so heavily drugged on Dramamine that I was lying comatose on a bench inside the boat praying for my personal hell to end. The invention of the scopolamine patch has been life-changing for me. Well, I think it will be life-changing. I've tried it a few times on ferry crossings, but I'm so nervous about getting sick that, like, we've picked ferry crossings that are as smooth as glass. I also wore it on a tour boat down the Seine, just in case. The irony of my seasickness is that I grew up on the ocean. I grew up in Newburyport, and the ocean at Plum Island is one of the touchstones of my childhood. It's the place that has always felt the most like home to me, and where I can remember myself at all ages and in all seasons. Of course, I also remember the unbelievable sunburns, because when I was a kid, sunscreen hadn't been invented yet, and look at me. I also remember the countless times in my childhood summers I would have what felt like these dramatic near-death experiences that no one noticed. Now, this was true for all of my siblings and basically every kid I knew growing up. There's an incredibly strong undertow at Plum Island. And so multiple times a summer, we would get caught right at that place where a huge wave breaks on top of you and spins you around a few times and then throws you back onto the beach, kind of like the biblical Jonah being thrown up out of the belly of the whale. So there we would be lying face down in the surf, completely breaded with sand and broken shells, gasping for breath and reeling from what felt like this narrow escape from death. And no adults took any notice whatsoever. Our mothers just went on reading their books or talking to each other on their beach blankets. They didn't even look up. But I remember how it felt to roll over and to look up at the blue summer sky and to feel this intense gratitude that I was still alive. I learned as I got a little older to try to dive through that wave instead of trying to get over it or outrun it, which is of course pretty good life advice. When a powerful wave breaks over your life, the best direction, really the only direction, is to go through it. Trying to outrun it or avoid it or jump over it usually makes it worse. Now, my youngest brother, Nigel, did not inherit the seasickness gene, and he is a serious surfer. And he told me about this phenomenon in surfing that's called getting caught in the washing machine, which sounds like the grown-up version of what happened to us as kids. And he told me that this is when you fall off your surfboard and a huge wave breaks right over you and it holds you down under the surface of the water and spins you around and around like you're in a washing machine. And I asked him, horrified, how do you get out of it? And he told me, you can't get out of it, just through it. He said it still happens to him and to every surfer he knows, and it is still scary, but that with practice, you learn how not to panic, how not to fight the water, which uses energy, and energy equals oxygen, and you need to hold on to your oxygen as much as possible. He said it's easier said than done, but, and this is a quote, you have to trust that you will rise to the surface. That is the nature of the human body, he said, to rise to the surface. So you have to wait for the wave to pass, which is also pretty good life advice. So Lee's story of their ancestors telling them to bring the fish, sweetheart, bring the fish, reminded me of fishing with my children when they were very little. We went to visit my ex's parents every summer on Edisto Island in South Carolina. And our first stop was always the local grocery store, which is actually called the Piggly Wiggly. And when we were there, we bought, among other essentials, new fishing nets for both of the kids. So these were just small handheld nets that you could buy at all the local stores down there. I'm sure you still can, which people use for crabbing. But my kids didn't want to go crabbing. They wanted to fish in the ocean with their nets. But they were also a little bit afraid of the ocean because the surf is really rough down there and the waves are really big, especially when you are 3 or 4 years old. So we spent a lot of time fishing at the shoreline. We would sit in the wet sand at the edge of the surf where the waves come in and wash over you, but far enough back so they don't knock you over, at least most of the time. And the kids would take turns sitting on my lap and sticking their nets into each receding wave. And I have to tell you, we got quite a catch. We got a lot of wet sand, we got a lot of shells and seaweed and parts of crab bodies. And once we got a perfect sand dollar that we took home, we got bits of plastic and a whole bunch of soaked cigarette butts, and once a small child's waterlogged sneaker. And the kids would carefully put their catch in a white bucket, just like all the other fishing people. And so people would walk by and they'd look in your bucket to see what you have caught. And they were perplexed. But I loved that kind of fishing. The kind that involves sitting still, maybe with somebody that you love, and holding out your net to see what comes. And then being surprised and delighted by bits of plastic and fragments of shells. My children are about to turn 20. I don't know if they remember fishing with me at all when they were 3 and 4 and 5, but I remember. And I hope that something of those hours of summer at the edge of the ocean seeped into them, that it became part of them somehow, waiting for what the waves would bring us. I hope that it gave them strength, that I have given them my strength for when the waves knock them down and send them spinning. And now another summer is about to begin. And I want you to take yourself to the water. However you can, however often you can, to rest in it and revel in it. I want you to let yourself feel your thirst, to sit at the water's edge and remember your own deep wells, to drink and to remember who you are. So we are going to sing our closing hymn, which is More Waters Rising. It is on the insert in your order of service.
So, it goes like this.
There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, they will find their way to me. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. There are more fires burning, they will find their way to me. There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know. There are more mountains falling, they will find their way to me. There are more mountains falling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know. We will wade through the waters, this we know, this we know. We will wade through the waters, this we know. We will wade through the waters when they find their way to us. We will wade through the waters, this we know, this we know. We will wade through the waters, this we know. We will move through the fires, this we know, this we know. We will move through the fires, this we know. We will move through the fires when they find their way to us. We will move through the fires, this we know, this we know. We will move through the fires, this we know. We will rebuild the mountains, this we know, this we know. We will rebuild the mountains, this we know. We will rebuild the mountains when they find their way to us. We will rebuild the mountains, this we know, this we know. We will rebuild the mountains, this we know. There are more waters rising, this we know, this we know. There are more waters rising, this we know. There are more waters rising, they will find their way to us. There are more waters rising, this we know, this we know. There are more waters rising, this we know. And all shall be well, and all shall be well. All manner of things shall be well.
So will you turn and face the center aisle, the hand over your heart, and with the other, reach out to one another with an open hand, and know that we are connected, woven together by such strong and sturdy threads of love.
Go in peace and let us be a blessing to this world.
Make us aware we are a sanctuary, each made holy and loved right through in thanksgiving. We are a living sanctuary anew. Oh, 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 oh.
bright blue